Hey everyone, this is NSP Productions and this is my review of the movie Flash. Flash follows the journey of Barry Allen, a person whose father is wrongfully imprisoned for his mother's murder. And it follows his journey to prove that it wasn't his father who actually killed his mother. And this creates an essential time travel journey where he goes back in time, tries to change the past, and inadvertently changes the future too. And he's left to basically clean up the temporal mess that he himself created. Start off with the good of the film. The film's depiction of Flash's speed and his presence inside the Speed Force was truly phenomenal. It provided a new perspective that previous movies that included this version of Flash did not give, such as Joss Whedon's Justice League and even Zack Snyder's Justice League. Another great inclusion within this film is Michael Keaton's Batman. He has a great on-screen presence and is able to carry over the greatness that he once had as Batman in Tim Burton's Batman, is able to bring it to this movie and contribute in a great way. There's some awesome fight sequences with them, especially there's one fight sequence in Siberia. There's a gunshot fight sequence that is a must watch. Additionally, Ben Affleck is also spectacular as Batman. He has a very limited role in this film, but he's able to deliver when he needs to, and he's given a proper send-off from this version of the DC Universe. Lastly, considering the extent of legal trouble that Ezra Miller is currently under, it is hard to deny, if you were to just look at him as an actor and not as a person in the real world, that he did in fact deliver spectacularly as Barry Allen in this movie. Though obviously, this does not excuse any of his real world actions. For the mixed aspects of the film, the soundtrack of the movie is not anything to gloat about. It does its job when it needs to. Batman's intro sequence with the soundtrack is great, but there's some certain song choices that didn't necessarily make sense, especially in the final fight. Additionally, the CGI in this movie is very hit or miss, like I mentioned. Some of the sequences in the Speed Force and the way Flash is depicted running is great, but there is some CGI in this that's just not good. Like, there's some CGI sequences in the final fight with Zod that is not that great, so it's certainly hit or miss. For the bad aspects of the film, I personally was not the biggest fan of the ending. I think the ending was definitely earned, but the moment simply did not sit long enough to have any emotional attachment to the ending. The realization that Zod's victory is inevitable and Sasha Calle's Supergirl, who was amazing in this movie, and Michael Keaton's Batman have to die regardless. There's no way to stop that. It did not sit long enough to, and it wasn't given enough emotional freedom by the director to have any sort of emotional connection with the audience, I personally felt. The lack of a very clear villain in this film, initially you think it's going to be Zod, you think they're going to fight Zod, but Zod just walks off with the victory. And then you see Dark Flash and you think they're going to fight Dark Flash, but they really don't, because he just dies on his own. The lack of a very clear villain in this film poses a major problem, and you don't have that antagonist to root against. You just have a really pretty good protagonist actually with just a couple roadblocks in his way, basically. Ultimately, the movie is definitely a great watch, though the expectations should be controlled. The emotional moments with the mother are truly great while he tries to save his mother, sees a future and past version of her and talks to her and has those emotional moments with her. Keaton's Batman is definitely done right, but the lack of presence of a looming threat does hold back the film somewhat in my eyes. Let me know what you think.